in Perception, Part 2, Other Senses. In the auditory system, let's look at the stimulus. The auditory system, the stimulus is the sound, but the sound is actually the air particle movement. If you put the string in front of the speaker, you found the string gonna move, and the rhythm is the air particle, the media, gonna vibrate the air. So most of the time, the media is the air. When you swim, the media become water. So you need to have a media. And there are two parameters of the stimulus of the sound. And one is the frequency, we call the pitch. High pitch, low pitch. And the second one is the loudness, is the amplitude. So you only have these two parameters. The unit in the sound is called the decibel. And it's a log scale. It's a log scale. So in the small decibels, in a quiet environment, and when the decibel number increase, and that's in a loud environment. And if you constantly work in this kind of environment, it's very dangerous because every time the increase is actually log scale, so it's increased by 10. If your job requires you to work in this loud environment, you need to wear ear protection because it can cause permanent damage of your auditory system. And let's look at the structure of the ear. The auricle, the external acoustic meatus, also called the ear canal, this part we call the outer ear. The outer ear's function is to collect sound. So I can cut the ear off, you can still hear, because their function is collecting sound. And the bigger ear you have, the easier to collect the sound. So you found some animals, they have a bigger ear, and they can turn. It helps them to collect sound. And the sound will go through the acoustic meatus, the ear canal, go to here, okay? You touch the tympanic membrane, eardrum. This is the starting point of the middle ear. And tympanic membrane, its function is to transfer the air particle movement into the eardrum movement. That's their function. So in auditory, everything is mechanical. And the tympanic membrane connects with three ossicles. The malleus, incus, stapes. These three ossicles, O-S-S-I-C-L-E, these are the smallest bone you can find in your body. Each one of them is smaller than 0.5 centimeter. So these three bones, they connected together like the hinge joint. It's like if you think about this, your arm and that's your hand, okay? They push. So it turns out the tympanic membrane push, you will push to the stapes push. And because the surface area in the tympanic membrane is about 16 times bigger than the surface area of the stapes, it makes this system very sensitive. You only need to push the tympanic membrane a little bit, you will amplify the signal by 16 times. Another structure called the auditory tube. This is structure for balance the pressure. This structure gonna go to the nasopharynx. Pharynx is the fancy word to say throat. So it go to your throat. In children, this distance is smaller because their head is smaller. So it's easier for bacteria to go from here to here, and it will cause the middle ear infection. So middle ear infection is more frequently happens in children than adult because of the anatomical distance. And now this part. This is the inner ear. So inner ear have two components. One is for balancing, including the semicircular canal and the vestibule. And this one called the cochlea. We're going to spend most of the time talking about the cochlea. This is for auditory. So together, the signal goes through the nerve. You have the vestibular branch and the cochlea branch. Together become the vestibular cochlear nerve, cranial nerve number 8. And we'll go to your brain. So this part shows you the middle ear. Middle ear, you have the tympanic membrane, we call the eardrum, and three ossicles. And this auditory tube, also called the eustachian tube, it goes to your inner ear. Sometimes when you take the airplanes taking off landings, you feel, oh, okay, the ear doesn't feel comfortable. Or if you play scuba diving, similar. when you go too deep, you feel the ear hurt. The reason is the pressure from here and here not balanced. And sometimes the airline company will teach you, okay, you can hold your nose and blow the air. And you try to push the air into here. Once the pressure is balanced, and you feel okay. Because the tympanic membrane surface area is much bigger, it's 16 times bigger than the stapes, it can amplify the signal. And what if you go to a very loud environment? It turned out, well, this would be too loud, amplify the signal by 16 times. It can damage the auditory system. And you have a protective mechanism. When the sound is too loud, you go to the very loud environment, your brain will provide the feedback and tight this muscle, the tension tympani. This muscle tight, so it actually make the ossicles vibrate less. And this when you go to a very loud environment. When it become tight, of course your auditory system is less sensitive. So you found when your friend talk to you in a loud party, you could not hear, and they have to yell because, well, this system become less sensitive, and it's a protective mechanism. But it needs neuronal feedback. So if the loud sound is sharp and quick, this won't be fast enough to provide the feedback and to help you to protect you. For example, the gunshot. So if you're you like to go to the range and during the weekend and shoot 500 ammos, you need to wear ear protection because this mechanism won't be able to be fast enough. It's a feedback, so it takes time. It won't be fast enough to protect you. So you still need to have ear protection. Wear the ear protection. Now let's look at the inner ear. The inner ear have two parts. This is balance part. This is the auditory part. The balance part can be put into two parts as well. So 3 semicircular canals. These 3 canals, they're in the X, Y, and Z direction. So they're all perpendicular to each other. And their function is to sense your movement and tell you where your head is located. That's their main function. And this part is the vestibular, still part of the balance function. So both of them, semicircular canal, vestibular, that's for balance function. This is the cochlea. Cochlea is for auditory function. So your auditory, if you damage the inner ear, you found some people lose their auditory function, but some people, their auditory will be fine, but they lose their balancing function. It's because of this part. So 50% for balancing, 50% for the auditory. And if you cut the inner ear have a lot of tubes. Semicircular canal, also the cochlea, the same, a lot of tubes. And when you cut it, you found the inside, let's look at the cochlea. Most of them are empty space. And this empty space, they are filled with liquid, not air. So the liquid in these two parts called the paralymph, and in this part is called the endolymph. They are all liquid. And this small area called the organ of Corti, also called the spiral organ. This is like the retina in the eye. So that's the most important place in the auditory system that transfer the sound into the neuronal signal. So they are like the retina in the eyes. So that piece of paper in the eye, they transfer the light into the neuronal signal. And the sound, this is the sound, right? Air particle movement, and they transfer this, the pressure wave. And you have the pitch, you have the intensity, and their unit is decibel. So decibel is a log scale. So every time you change from 10 to 20 to 30, you have to amplify the signal by 10 times. So from here to here is 10 times. And from 10 to 30 decibel is 10 multiplies 10. It will be 100 times. And the inner ear. So now they extend the cochlea to help the explanation. They're supposed to call your back. If you think about the party horn, you go to the party, you blow it, boo, you extend it out. So it's for demonstration. And it shows you, in auditory, everything is mechanical. You push the tympanic membrane, you push the ossicle, now they push the paralymph. And the paralymph gonna flow. And this part, organ of corti, they covered by the endolymph, the liquid gonna flow as well. And they will push the hair cells. So on the they call the basilar membrane, they have the hair cells, and on the hair cells, these hair cells, when they move, they're like rods and cones. They transfer the sound into the neuronal signal. So it turned out, okay, this picture shows you the sound transfer into the tympanic membrane movement, transfer into the ossicle movement, transfer into the liquid movement. Eventually, you can have the hair cells movement, and they will generate neurotransmitter release and action potential. And in auditory, everything is mechanical. Everything is mechanical. Compared with visual, visual is a chemical process. They turn the light into the neurotransmitter release. They need to have the photoreceptor pick up the light. It's chemical process. And that's why the visual system is slow. It's so slow, if we turn the speed to 60 Hertz, means 60 pictures per second, your visual system won't be able to catch the time delay. We'll think the object move continuously. And that's why we are able to enjoy movies, enjoy TV. They just move it very quick. So your visual system won't be able to tell the time delay. The auditory system, everything is mechanical. And it's very quick. There's no time delay. So the visual system and the auditory system, they help each other. Even though the visual system is our main system, it's very powerful, but it's slow. So when we go to a dark environment, suddenly our visual system won't work. You find your attention, your brain automatically pay attention to the auditory. And there's no time delay. Auditory is quick. So if you go to a completely dark room, you hear something strange, and suddenly your sympathetic nervous system is activated. Your body is ready for you to fight or to run. And that's the purpose of auditory system. It's not as powerful as the visual system, but it's very quick. There's no time delay because everything is mechanical in auditory. And this slide shows you the organ of corti. I'll show you the cochlea, and when you cut the cochlea, you have a lot of tubes, and this part is the organ of corti. So you have a lot of organ of corti. And let's look at this. So I talk about the organ of corti, that's this. So there's one cochlea, and most of them are liquid covered. So you have a perilymph, and you have an endolymph here. Okay, this, I call the sandwich. This sandwich is organ of corti, including the hair cells. And hair cells being sandwiched by two membranes, tectorial membrane and the basilar membrane. That's the organ of corti. So this is the organ of corti. This is as important as the retina in the eye. And these hair cells being sandwiched by tectorial membrane and the basilar membrane. When the sound comes, the perilymph will push the endolymph. So on the upper part, the liquid move in. The bottom part, liquid move out. It's like a sandwich. These two pieces of bread, tectorial membrane, basilar membrane, they have those relative movement. They're gonna bend the hair cells. And when the hair cells being bent, they generate neurotransmitter release, and then it will be turned into the action potential. So the hair cells are like the rods and cones on retina. And this picture shows you the hair cells. And those endolymph, they have a very high potassium. That's the unique part. Most of the cells outside is high sodium. Inside is high potassium. But those endolymph actually have a high potassium. And when they start to move, on the hair, they have the mechanically gated potassium channel. It's opened by mechanical force. When they start to move, they'll pull the channel open. And when they pull the channel open, because high potassium outside, it's gonna flow in, right, from high to low. And once it flow in, it makes the inside become more positive. So we call it depolarized. And once it's depolarized, it will open the voltage-gated calcium channel. It sends the voltage, and the calcium gonna flow in, and calcium will trigger the vesicle fusions, and when the vesicle fusion, exocytosis, and will release neurotransmitter. So when they move to one direction, the ion channel open, neurotransmitter release. Move back, they close, so they can code the sound into the neuronal signal. Let's take a break.